Ay, me sale un... ¿Me escuchas? Me sale algo que dice error.
A mí también dice there was a problem while playing, tap to retry, pero lo hago y no aparece nada.
Nada.
Y había un chat, pero ahora no veo el chat tampoco.
No, yo sí veo. Exacto. Qué raro.
No sé si sal y vuelve a tratar de hacerlo.
A ver, voy a intentar. Dame un segundito, por favor. A ver, voy a intentar. Dame un segundito, por favor. A ver, voy a intentar. Dame un segundito, por favor. A ver, voy a intentar. Dame un segundito, por favor. A ver, voy a intentar. Dame un segundito, por favor. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this session, this afternoon session. In this opportunity, we have Laurie Salomón. Good afternoon, Laurie. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker. Okay, so Laurie Carolina Salomón Recovery has taught EFL for over 20 years in different countries in South America. A recipient of a highly competitive academic merit scholarship program from her country. She credits being an ESL student in the United States as the beginning of her love relationship with languages and language teaching. As a teacher, she has had the opportunity to teach children, teenagers, and adults, as well as special needs learners. With a BFA from Washington University and CELTA TKT, and the Trainer Cambridge certifications, she currently works as an academic consultant for Macmillan Education. Welcome, Laurie. Okay, it's CBA La Paz is honored to have you this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Danny, and thank you everybody for joining us. This is a really great experience, so I hope we get a lot of information and a lot of ideas. And I would love it if you could share your ideas using the chat in YouTube. I have my chat open on my cell phone, so if I'm looking down, it's because I'm trying to see what you're writing. And Danny
Sure.
is going to help me as well. So
Of
if you
course.
have any comments or any questions, just go ahead and write them, and we'll try to get to those. I'm going to try and share my screen. Not very familiar with this format, so bear with me. Let's see if that works.
Okay.
Let's try.
Well, in the meantime, while people are sending greetings, they say welcome, Laurie. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, now, okay,
Okay.
so we are going to share Laurie's presentation.
I think you might have to do it, Danny, because I'm sharing, but I can't
Yes,
see it.
that's it. Right there we go. Okay, Laurie. So I will be listening to your presentation. Now I leave you with your audience. I will pay
Thank
attention to the comments, okay, and questions. Okay.
you. Okay,
Thank
so thank you. Here we go. Today we're going to be talking about zoom out. Yeah, that's the title for our presentation today. And we're going to be talking about Zoom fatigue or general video conferencing fatigue. It's not limited to Zoom. It could be for any of the multiple video conferencing apps that we use. So this could be for Meet, GoToMeeting, or any others that you use. So let's start. And I want to ask a question, and I will be reading your answers. How do you really feel about video conferencing? Like for real? If you had to use a word, if you had to express your feelings, would you say you love it? It's okay. Or you absolutely hate it? So, can you write it in the chat? Do you love video conferencing? You like it because you can be at home wearing pajamas, like you don't have to move from where you are. It's okay. Like you can see the benefits, but you can also see some of the things that don't work so well. Or you just plain absolutely hate video conferencing. And let's see what you write.
Okay, we are waiting for your comments. How much do you love video conferencing? That's the question. I think we're having some problems with the audio. Dear Laurie, maybe you can get
My
closer
audio.
to your microphone.
Let's see that. Let's try. How about now?
Oh, it sounds much better now. We can hear
Okay,
you much better.
better. Okay, there. So
So,
we have
okay.
some people who say that they love it,
Yes.
that they
And
enjoy it, that is very practical. Some people have gotten used to it.
yes, Fabiola says that she finds it very practical. Okay, yes. And Rodrigo says he loves it.
He loves it. Okay. So how about anyone just don't like them or hate them, or is all good?
Okay, I guess we don't have that kind of comment yet. Oh, Sarah says she enjoys it, right? Carla, she got used to it. She kind of like it. I'm sorry, she kind of likes it. Wendy finds it useful. Okay.
Okay. So here's the thing. There is such thing as Zoom fatigue. It is real. And this is a Google trend. When we went into pandemic lockdown and people were forced to work from home, obviously these video conferencing systems became very useful. And we have gotten used to them. But if you see the trend, in February 2021, people began to ask what Zoom fatigue is it real? What are the signs? Because lots of people do report feeling extremely tired, feeling very fatigued when using video conferencing apps. So let's see some definitions. What is Zoom fatigue? And this is a definition from Urban Dictionary. Maybe you are familiar with this site. It's a place where people write their own definition. And here we have the top definition. This is what people voted as the top definition. Okay, so can you read the definition for a second? And can you tell me, do you agree or disagree? I think you're not seeing my screen anymore.
Yes, we're seeing your screen. Everything is well. But we see the other presentations, the other slides as well.
But why if I'm sharing the whole screen? Let's try this again. 1 second. Let's try again.
In presentation mode, like that.
It is in presentation mode.
Oh, that's weird.
Let's try again. How about now?
Well, we still see the other slides, the coming slides on the left.
Okay, yes. As I mentioned before, not very familiar with StreamYard, so that might be why. Let's try again. Let's see. Let's try again.
Okay, no problem.
Let's see if this works better.
Yes, we have to put them in presentation mode.
It is. It was. Let's try again.
Yes, okay.
How about now?
Okay, better. Now we can see just the slide you are presenting. Thank you, Laurie.
No problem. Okay. So as I was saying, and we were talking about Google Trends and we had a definition. Can you see the definition now?
Yes, we can see the definition. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So this is, as I was saying, from Urban Dictionary and is the top definition, the definition that most people voted up. So what is Zoom fatigue? Here you have a definition, but this is obviously not an official definition. Let's look at an official definition. This is an official definition. Zoom fatigue is the word we use to describe the tiredness, anxiety, and worry that results from overusing virtual platforms, video conference virtual platforms. So there isn't a lot of research, but there is some research. And let's take a test. There is a Stanford measurement to see if you are suffering from Zoom fatigue or video conferencing fatigue. So very simple. The test has 15 questions. We are going to do just 10 and just read the question and write in the chat yes or no, except for the first question. So let's look at the first question. How often do you participate in video conferences? And how often do your students participate in video conferences? If you have to think about it, do you participate in video conferences once a day, more than once a day, once a week, once a month? How about your students? How often are they connected onto a video conference app? Every day, once a day, more than once a day, multiple times a day, many times a day, says Fabiola. What about the rest of you? Twice a day, every weekday for more than 6 hours. Oh my God, that sounds like a lot. More than once a day, many times a day. So it appears that most of us are connected on video conference apps more than once a day, many times a day, multiple times a day. So here's the next question. For this, you just answer yes or no. Do you feel emotionally drained after video conferencing? Do you feel emotionally tired? Do you feel emotionally spent after being on a video conference?
Okay, Fernando says yes, he does. Let's see other answers. Please comment your answer on the chat box. Alicia says every day. Hector, yes. Marisela,
So lots of yes.
yes, totally agree. Yes, all of them.
Okay, next question. Do you feel physically tired after a video conference? We already talked about emotionally. What about physically? Do you feel physically tired after video conferencing?
We have some answers to this question. Marcela says sometimes. Raquel, not too much. It depends on the type of conference you have. Sarah says yes. Lee is yes. Rosario, yes. Karen and Marcela, well, they say yes as well.
There is a good one. Eyes get tired. And that was the
Yeah.
next question. Do your eyes hurt after video conferencing? And Luis Vasquez said that his eyes get tired, and Hector said that his eyes get tired. And somebody mentioned the knees.
Yes.
So, yes.
Just so that says that she gets a headache.
Mhm. And if you get a headache, that could be because of your sight, it could be because of your eyes. Okay,
Yes.
so the next question. Do you want to be alone after video conferencing? Like you don't want to talk to anybody, you just want to go to a place where you are by yourself. And here we have Renee, not only tired, but also irritated,
Yeah.
sometimes with a headache. Mhm.
Yes. Well, Belita says no.
That's good.
Karen
Uh,
says no.
okay. Okay, what about the next one? Do you dread having to do things after video conferencing? Tati says
Tati,
that she has headaches because of the computer. And Beatriz says she wants to go to bed.
yes. Marcela, not really. Maria Teresa, I prefer to talk to someone as a way to get relaxed.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Fabiola says that she wants to go out for a walk.
And
So,
Belita says yes.
do you feel moody after video conferencing?
Fernando says yes. Let's see.
So, some yes as well.
Hmm.
Sometimes. Not really. That's good. Okay. Do you feel like doing nothing after video conferencing?
We have Paola that says not always, Sara sometimes, Fernando sometimes. Renee, no, I just stick for real social contact.
But
Oh,
it is interesting that Renee talks about real social contact. So that means that video conferencing is not real social contact.
yes. And well, many people say sometimes.
Mhm. Do you
And yes.
avoid social situations after video conferencing? Some people actually seek social situations after video conferencing.
Yeah, Kelly says on weekends. Lourdes, yes. Rocio, yes. Fabiola, I feel like doing exercise. Marisela, not at all. Fernando, yes. Maria Teresa, the truth is that it is exhausting, but if you like teaching, that is not a big issue. Right? Happy face. Beatriz says she does, Paola sometimes, and Karen not at all.
Okay, so next question. Do you use touch-up filters to improve your appearance? Or do you use a photo so people can actually see you, that you see the photo? Hector mentions that he welcomes social contact and again, real contact. So that means the video conference is not real contact.
Hmm. Juan Jose thinks video conferencing can help you learn interesting stuff, right? Teresita, she feels like always. Marcela, jejeje. Beatriz, sometimes a photo. Fernando says yes. Hector, no. Doesn't use filters. Okay. Maria
Okay.
Teresa, I do not use filters.
Okay, so most of you don't. That's good. So this is a questionnaire that has been created and is actually online if you want to participate because this is ongoing research. This is part of Stanford University's uh, academic research. So if you want to participate, you can go ahead and give your opinion so you can be part of the research about video conferencing. But the thing is that it affects people to some degree or other in different ways, but there is an effect. So, what are the causes of Zoom fatigue? Why are there people that feel very affected, and how does it affect people? So, here are the causes. The first one is the lack of nonverbal cues. Most of our interaction when we are talking to people, we get a lot of information from nonverbal cues. Actually, most of the information we get comes from nonverbal cues. We pay attention to things like posture, gestures, tone of voice, facial expressions, and it's very hard to get that information when you are looking at a box in a computer screen. Most of the times, you only see it from the top of the shoulders to from the shoulders up. You don't actually get to see hand motions many times. You don't get to see the posture. You don't get to see a lot of facial expressions are hard to read. Lack of movement. So because of the lack of nonverbal cues, we have to work harder to pay attention to what people are saying. And this is not a natural thing for us. We are not used to having social interactions in this fashion. So that's one reason why it is overtiring. Another reason, social rewards. As it happens for a lot of us, social interaction is a way to have a a psychological reward. When we have social interaction, our brain actually produces dopamine. So we feel better. The thing is that there are tests that show that when that interaction happens through video, we don't secrete the same amount of dopamine. So we don't get the same reward. So when somebody was saying, I want to have real social interaction. I want to go out and have real social connections. That is because we don't feel that computer time is real because we are not having the same psychological rewards. Our brain is not secreting the same amount of dopamine. So there is a distance. Another reason why is the close-up eye contact. And let me ask you a question. When you get into an elevator, where do you look at? Let's say that you get an elevator and there is a group of people already there. Some of them you don't know, some of them might be, neighbors, but you're not very friendly, you're not very intimate with. Just people. Where do you look at? What do you look at? How do you stand? We look upwards, good, or downwards. We either look up, we look down. How do you stand? Do you face each other or do you face the door? We face the front, we face the
Yes.
door. Do you face people directly and hold their eye contact? We avoid eye contact.
Yes.
Exactly. So in these situations where distance is very small, when we're very close together to people that we might not be very intimate with, we tend to avoid eye contact. However, when we are using a video conferencing app, there's nowhere else to look at. We have to look either at the camera so people feel that we are looking at them, and we have all these people looking straight at us from a very short perceived distance. They did a test, and when you consider the distance and the size of the head in relationship to the computer, it feels like we are very close together. And normally we don't stand that close together to people that we are not very personal with. Think about it. The distance between you and the computer is very small. Normally, you don't stand this close to people that are not very close emotionally to you. So this creates a lot of tension. This creates a very strong perceived sensation of invasion. People are invading your personal space. People are invading your physical space. So this is another reason why sometimes people feel the need to distance themselves from uh, video conferencing. Another thing, how often do you look at your face? How often, how much time do you spend looking at your face in a mirror or on your cell phone when you are talking? Are you constantly looking at yourself? Is that a normal situation? In a normal conversation, in a real social interaction, do you see your face when you're talking? Do you see your expressions? Are you paying attention to where your eyes are, if you are smiling, or how you look, if you look pretty, if you look like a disaster? Like, so this is another thing that happens when we're working on video conferences. We see our face a lot. We might be looking at ourselves for a very long period of time. And this is not natural. Normally, we don't look at our faces for very long periods of time. So we are paying a lot of attention to our expressions, to how we look, to how our hair looks, etc. And that creates a very strong, very heavy cognitive load. And finally, we end up with a strong cognitive overload. We are having to pay a lot of attention to a lot of details that normally we don't pay attention to. We have to overcompensate because we don't have information that normally we have, for example, verbal cues. We are not getting the same rewards. So all of this adds up to cognitive overload. That's why there is such a thing as Zoom fatigue. So if you consider that as teachers and as students, we're spending lots of time using these video conferencing apps, we are creating lots of stress for ourselves and for our students. There is research that shows that women tend to suffer more from Zoom fatigue because of self-focused attention. Women tend to pay more attention to their faces when they are using a video conferencing tool. Younger students also get more Zoom fatigue. So these are things that we have to take into consideration when we design our lessons, when we design our schedules, when we design our classes. How can we work so our students don't have additional stress? Any questions up to here or any comments? Let's see at the Beatriz Zambrana says that when she's in an elevator, she looks at the door and the number. So yes, we avoid eye contact. Okay. So I think there are no questions, right?
No, we have no questions. So far, no questions.
Excellent. So let me ask you, with this information, what do you think are some of the things that we could do to avoid Zoom fatigue? From the top of your head, if you had to consider, okay, so this is a reality, we are going to be working online maybe a bit longer. So, what are some of the things that we can do to make it easier on everybody? What are some of the things that we can incorporate or we can try so this situation is less stressful for everybody, for us as teachers and for our students? Because as you mentioned at the beginning, you are doing video conferences multiple times a day, and your students are taking classes online multiple times a day. So, what are some of the things that we could do to make this process easier on everyone?
There's a suggestion from
Mhm.
Marisela. She says brain breaks.
Absolutely.
Luis Fernando says trouble.
I wonder what
Marisela,
he means.
dancing, singing, games.
Good. All of
That's
these are very good ideas. Let's wait for a little bit and see what else.
okay. Well,
I wonder what Luis means by travel. Like, should we stop working and just, go to Bali?
maybe whenever you have some time off, right? Travel. Okay. Beatriz says listening to music. Amelia, stretching.
Stretching. Good.
Yes. Okay. Let's wait for some more ideas from the audience. Stretching, everybody agrees on that because we're sitting right in front of the computer sometimes many hours.
Yeah. TPR, that's a good one too. And coffee.
More
Yeah. I would say also wine.
yes. So why not?
Wine makes everything better.
Yes.
Warm water, oxygen. Very good. Mindfulness. Excellent.
Yes. During breaks, I get a glass of warm. Yes. Bodies need
Mhm.
oxygen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And getting a glass of water is also a very good social emotional intervention when you have students who become very excited like they get emotionally very excited, might be because they're angry, might be because they're worried, might be because they're tired. It's a very good idea to tell them to stop and drink a glass of water. It actually helps regulate breathing. It's very difficult to drink when you're breathing very fast. So it helps you regulate your breathing and it makes you slow down, and it's a very effective technique. So very
Wow.
good idea, the water thing. That's an excellent idea.
Okay. Also, well, they suggest breathing exercises,
Mhm.
listening to music, and playing games.
So all of these are great ideas. So let's look at some of their ideas. Let's talk about schedules. I recently had the opportunity to observe classes for a school, and their English class was 2 hours long, which might be necessary because of scheduling. Scheduling classes on an online environment is not very easy, so it might work better for a scheduling purpose. But a class that is 2 hours long on this kind of environment is going to be fatiguing. So if you need to have a very long class, what can we do? As somebody said, breaks. Make sure that you give your students breaks and try to keep to space out the sessions. Try to make sure that there is a space for your students to dis, dis, I am sorry, I said the word, disconnect, to step away from the computer for a little bit. Same for you. If you have lots of meetings, is it necessary to have a meeting that goes on and on and on? Is it possible to schedule it in a way that you do 40 minutes, you have a break, then you can do 40 minutes, then you have a break. So try to keep it short and try to space out the meetings. I know that it might be a challenge with the scheduling, but that's a good thing to try. Something else, create distance. And what do we mean by creating distance? As we mentioned, this format where we are constantly looking at people who feel very close creates a lot of tension. So, a good thing, especially for younger children, but for everybody, is to move away from the computer so you create physical distance. So, consider also if it is possible, maybe using a stand up desk so it allows for you to feel farther away from your students and also for them to appreciate your physical movements. If you're working with very young kids and older kids as well, somebody mentioned TPR, excellent idea. Ask your students to stand up, move away from the computer, and become physical participants in the class. What about blocking out your own face? There is an option on Zoom that allows you to have the camera on. People can see you, but you can't see yourself. That alone is going to lower the stress levels and it's going to lower the cognitive load because you're not spending a lot of energy looking at your own face. So that's that option. You're not using Zoom, maybe you're using a different system. You can just cover the camera. Go ahead, use a post-it, use a sticker, use something so people can see you or people can see you, but most importantly, you don't have to see your face and you're not exposed to that micromanaging of how you look. Also, a good idea, and it's recommended by a lot of research, take breaks, not necessarily where you get out of the meeting, but where you are not looking at the information. So you can get up and listen from a different part of the room. Your camera is off and you're listening from a different part of the room. You are not mentally connected to the computer screen and move around. A lot of the times people compare video conferencing to phone calls. And why don't we say that phone calls were exhausting? Because again, the cognitive load was not the same. When you are on a phone call, you move around, you change position, you're not gazing attentively at a screen. So you can do the same with a computer format. Give your students the opportunity to move around, to do different things. You can incorporate games where you have a scavenger hunt and they have to run around the house finding things. So there is some form of motion. Also including breathing exercises, mindfulness exercises to start the class so they can level their system might be a good idea. As I said, turn off your camera. And then how about we think beyond video conferencing? One of the things that happened when we went into lockdown was that we took exactly what was happening in our classroom and we translated that, we transferred that to a video conferences system. But the thing is that this is not the only option we have. There are other systems, and I want to mention two. There is one called Gather, where you create virtual spaces and students create avatars. So instead of looking at the actual person, students move around sort of like a video game with their avatars. They have different meeting spaces. You can create different spaces and students can move around. Another one, and this is by Mozilla, is Hubs. It's called Mozilla Hubs. And as you can see, students create avatars and they can have virtual meetings through their avatars. So that lowers the cognitive load of having the screen, the lack of nonverbal cues, and it is attractive. It is visually attractive. So these are some of the things that people are beginning to use instead of video conferencing. Also, think about having classes where participation and collaboration doesn't have to be based on having the camera on and participating through the camera or the chat. For example, you can create video interaction using video and you can have your students join the Zoom meeting, but you're going to see the interaction through a virtual resource. For example, in this case with video and this is from the University of Minnesota, your students can actually interact with a YouTube video. So you can see collaboration, you can see participation, but your students are not forced to participate in a standard traditional video format or video conferencing format. Another example could be using Voicethread. Voicethread allows students to create videos to interact with text or with other kinds of media. So this is live. You can see the interaction. You can see students participating. They can write comments. They can record videos. They can record their opinion. And it goes beyond our traditional video conferencing format where students have to be sitting in front of the computer with the open camera, and that's how we measure participation. So when we moved into this format because of the pandemic, we copied what we were doing in the classroom. But it might be a good idea to start thinking beyond our traditional classroom and start thinking about what online classes, when we take MOOCs, what they do, what kind of cooperation, collaboration, participation they ask of students, and use those so we can avoid the cognitive overload for our students, but still have very clear participation. So I don't know if you have any questions or comments up to here. I think my time is almost up. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, Danny, so we can see if there are any comments or questions. I don't know how to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, I'm gonna get it out. Okay, no problem. So, do you have any questions? I think, well, there were some interesting comments before, right? And now we know how important it is to have brain breaks, some space, right? Well, we have more comments. Beatriz says, nice presentation, Laurie.
Thank you.
Luis Fernando, great ideas. That's what he said. That's fine. Fabiola, thank you. A very meaningful topic. Rodrigo, everything is okay. Thank you so much. Let's see. And well, thank you, Laurie. Jacqueline also says, I really like it. I enjoyed it. Thanks. Karen, thank you very much. Marisela, thank you so much. Carmen also says, thank you. Ruben, I don't have any questions. Yes, Alicia, thank you. Maria Teresa, I totally agree with your ideas. And as you said, it's important to think that a virtual class is totally different from a presential one. Thank you a lot.
Absolutely. And there are lots of resources. So if you want to investigate about Zoom fatigue and why it is tiring, why students don't like it, you're going to find lots of ideas. But basically, the main idea is trying to think beyond our traditional classroom. If we are in this format, what can we do that is different? What is going to work better for our students? So, as I said, like let's think beyond video conferencing. What other tools, what other forms of collaboration can we use?
Okay, Sarah, it is very amazing to think about how we feel before, during, and after using Zoom. And Hector says, thank you, good ideas. Marisol also says, thank you so much.
So
Rene,
how do you feel about Zoom conferences? Do you feel fatigued or you feel totally okay?
well, in my case, I feel fatigue, right? I really feel like I should stop at some point. It's very tiring. As you said, my eyes ache, my head aches. And well, I feel like many of our colleagues said we need a real interaction, right? And in some cases, when I am alone at home, I feel like someone is observing me, right? Like, yes, I don't know why. Maybe because we use the cameras a lot, but I feel like I shouldn't have said that. Well, I feel like someone is observing me. Yes.
Yeah, I think we have become conditioned to looking at ourselves. So like even the gestures, I make a lot of faces, and sometimes I see myself and I go like, "Ah, what did I do? Did people see me?"
Yes, exactly. That's how we feel, right? Fatigue. It was a nice presentation, very enriching. Thank you a huge lot. That's what Rene says. And well, most of our colleagues feel the same way. And thank you, Laurie. It was a great presentation. On
Thank you.
behalf of the CBA, thank you so much. We hope to have you in another opportunity, in another similar event. Okay. I don't know if you would like to say something else before we say goodbye.
Now, once again, thank you for the invitation. This is a great opportunity for us to meet teachers from other places. One of the good things about video conferences is that it has made distances smaller. So we have the opportunity to, talk to teachers in Bolivia and see how they're feeling. And that is a good thing. It's not an indictment of video conferencing. They have good things, they have good uses, but we do have to think a little bit about how to make it better. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And I do hope to see you soon, hopefully in person.
Yes, let's meet in person in another opportunity. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Laurie. Thank you guys for joining this session. We hope you enjoyed it. See you later. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.